What does today mean to you?
Well, as I said in the speech, it's obviously it's a great honor, but I wanted to think about what the school meant to me. And so I agonized quite a bit about the speech because that's what I do. I tell hard truths. That's what my plays are. And the experience was as terrible as it was wonderful. It was, there was a lot of tough love, and sometimes it was just tough. Then there was extraordinary nurturing and guidance with people like Douglas Rain, Martha Henry, Louis and Anne-Marie, Diana LeBlanc, Patty Crane, the brilliant Pierre Lefebvre. But other than that, there were some people were dangerous.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. And I think any student will tell you that of any school. There are mistakes made. Of course, as I said, there were lecherous male teachers, and that's why we really appreciated the teachers who were purely teachers. Paterno looked at us as human beings, and those are the ones I named, and Carl Hare, of course, and the ones we trusted. There was no other agenda, and valued us as human beings, as intellects, as artists. So, what the great thing about the school is suddenly the standards were so high. I understood the demands of the craft and the art were so extraordinary, and it's something one had to commit oneself to 100%. Not just because you're the best reader in your class in your small town, or you can do this effortlessly, and that you were, even as an actor, a real participant in literature. And that doesn't mean just storytelling. It's transforming the audience at its roots. You're looking at the roots of political, social change in brilliant plays. And what I tell people, people say, oh, you're writing politically now. Palace of the End is pure political. It's actually no more or less political than my early plays, which seemed to be about the personal being political. Because that play, it does take place around the Iraq War, but it forced me as the writer and then the audience and the actors to grapple with almost impossible questions. And I think every great piece of theater forces us to grapple with questions that we cannot easily answer. It poses more questions. And the school made me reach beyond what I thought was possible. I do think there was some of the critiques were damaging, and there were other agendas going on. Certain people that were asked to leave should have stayed in. They were magnificent artists and thinkers, and I think that they just didn't like them, and yet it's training beyond anything I can else imagine. And I don't think I would have had a career as a playwright without Pierre Lefebvre, without Michael Mawson. They're both dead now. Michael Mawson, who saw my monologues and said, you've got to read Ruth Draper and these monologists, and I want you to keep going with that. And that inspired me to write The Crackwalker, and then showed it to him. It was a great big mess, and he sort of took it on. So the connection with the school is invaluable, but of course I have mixed feelings.
You did complete your full 3 years.
Oh, I did, yes. This was the miracle of it, is that it was this terrible critique, but I was not asked to leave. So as I said, I had an angel, and I now just found out from Martha Henry that was Douglas Rain, who saw. Yeah. And they just wanted to shake me up, but I still think, as an educator myself now, I think it was wrong. I barely survived, and others might not have.
Yes.
Because there was something personal. There was something personal. I know, I give critiques every day. I teach playwriting, acting, all of it. And there's a way of critiquing that's not personal, that's helpful.
Now, you said monologues. You began monologue writing there, and now you're being nominated for Governor General's Award for your latest play, which is actually 2 monologues, right?
No. Yes, it's 2 monologues. It's intertwined, and they actually do talk to each other, sort of, at the end. Yeah. Yes, it is. Yeah.
And is this? Do you consider this one a political play?
Every play is political. All theater is political. Because it's all about agency, it's all about provoking thought, about social situations. Certainly, I don't know if you know the play, but Blandy, the 15-year-old girl, is a child of no privilege, no advantage at all. She's on the streets, her life is threatened, and then fold that with Sorel, who is based on a real woman who actually lives outside of Ottawa, who was instrumental in the one revolt at Auschwitz. And she was a 15-year-old girl working in the munitions factory, and it was her idea to gather the gunpowder. And they know about the men, but history, they know about, and her sister and 3 other girls were hung. They do know about that. But nobody knows about her, and I happened upon her story. So I thought they're both in these situations that require enormous courage. Their lives are on the line, and yet one is in a modern-day contemporary city where it shouldn't happen.
So, what was it was finding this woman's story that inspired you to...
It was Blandy first, the 15-year-old girl, and actually I started to write her monologue for a People for Education benefit because I'd been doing Shakespeare. I just do that voluntarily with middle schools, and every spring I've done it for 9 years. And hearing these kids who don't have much and then attached to Shakespeare unbelievably, and do it as well in some cases as any professional, better, just because it's an openness and a purity.
And putting it together with the other story?
Just felt right. I move on instinct.
So again, getting back to the 50th here, do you have anything to say to the graduates or the new...
I do say, this is why I told the story of my terrible crit, because all the other crits after that were great. But it's why I told the story is that you will rise again, no matter how tough it gets. If you have, obviously someone other than just your mother has to love what you're doing and support it. But if you have some basis of support and you know you're an artist, and no matter how they knock you down, because they will, especially if you're a new voice, an innovative voice, if you break tradition in some way, if you piss people off. And I think even then I was pissing people off. And I feel it was much more about that. They were horrible. A guy in a blue velveteen suit that would simply just, instead of teaching us, sit and talk about his sexual conquests in Paris. Just insane. I didn't go into it, but, another guy who just taught us Stalinism. That's all. And then there were the geniuses, the Douglas Rains, the Martha Henrys.
But in the end, it was worthwhile.
Completely. Like any huge adventure. I just went through Peru and Bolivia. We climbed Machu Picchu. We went on the Inca Trail. We suffered through altitude sickness. We had stuff stolen. We were on the streets. It was incredible adventure with many mishaps, no calamities, and it was one of the best things I've ever done. Similar.
Thank you.